So halfway through the video, you hear me speaking of a letter that my ex sent down to me. And on top of the letter, she got the child to write the symbol for this religion, this Baha'i religion. And I just wanted to show the letter before we start. There's the letter there. And there's the symbol up the top. I'm not sure if you can see it there. The reason I show you that, like, that's the symbol of the Baha'i religion. There it is there, the Baha'i symbol. And there it is being promoted by the HSC. And they started promoting this 18 months after I said that they were trying to get this into the infrastructure in Ireland. And so this shows, like, I was somehow able to predict this a year and a half before that happened. And it shows that she had my daughter send that letter on the 28th of 7, 2021, which was like 3 months after my mother had passed away, with that symbol on it to try and provoke me. And that's actually my birthday, and this is why that was done. But I just wanted to show that she was linked up with this religion, and I just wanted to show that, like, she was still trying to provoke me using this religion. So it was something to do with this religion that was provoking me. And so I just thought I'd explain this before, because I covered it halfway through this video. So I just thought I'd show the letter. I'd show other documentation regarding all the videos at a later stage when I have it all complete. Thanks. So I made the video, and the video brought us up to January 2015 when my father passed away, and I spoke about these members of Baha'i. One is employed by Waterford Tusla, who had previous contact with a family member of mine, so she shouldn't have been anywhere near me in the first place. Then there was her husband who lured us into this Baha'i religion through Tramore ETB, and they turned up at my father's funeral despite me not speaking to him whatsoever. But it just shows you the kind of nastiness of these people, and I just want to take it from there. So in February then in 2015, I went down and I started all legal proceedings in Waterford District Court. I applied for guardianship, access and custody. I had a male solicitor from Tramore. He was a good solicitor, and I've no complaints about him whatsoever. I explained the situation of this psychologist from Waterford Tusla and her involvement previously in a case where I was a witness in, and the whole risk of prejudice, and kind of explained that I didn't want Waterford Tusla anywhere near me or my family at all whatsoever, because I know their behaviour. And he agreed anyway, so he set up an independent person to do a section 22, which is a report done on both parents. So I agreed, and that was it. It was all set up. Her name was Dr. Theresa Graham from Tramore. She has a good name, so I agreed. She's independent. In between that, then I was given bad legal advice. I was told that in family law solicitors, if you're a man, you should have a woman solicitor, that it looks better. So I changed. I only had the male solicitor for 2 or 3 sittings, and I changed. Listen to this stupid advice, being honest with you. So I changed to a woman solicitor, and it was no fault of the male solicitor. He was actually a good solicitor. I just changed because I got bad advice. Then the new solicitor didn't believe the whole kind of like Baha'i religion thing, and how I was introduced to it, and how this person had an involvement kind of years earlier with a family member where I was a witness, and she kind of took it with a pinch of salt what I was saying, being honest with you. My solicitor was never ready in court. She was always playing around with paperwork, never ready. Like, my ex was in the box at this stage. She was lying. She was constantly throwing the death of my father in my face, who was literally only dead like 2 months, 3 months. So like, she was constantly throwing the death of my father to try and provoke me, and my solicitor would be playing around with paperwork. She should have been objecting, like, why would you be bringing up this, trying to provoke him? Like, she was claiming that after my father passed away that I had some kind of mental illness, and that I was paranoid, that I was imagining all these stories, sexual slander being spread about me and all this kind of stuff. My ex, and she wouldn't let me see the kids, and unless my sister was present. So obviously I said, like, no way. But the kids started to ring me, and because I had the kids for kind of like all the time, to be honest with you. And eventually then, after the kids rang so many times, I reluctantly agreed. My sister agreed as well, begrudgingly, but she did agree to do me the favour. So on one of the visits then, I went into Tramore supermarket, and I brought the kids in with me, and my sister stayed outside in the car. And we were in walking around the supermarket, and later that evening when the kids went back, then she rang up the usual kind of like she stopped the visits because my sister hadn't walked into the supermarket with me. So I found out afterwards her hair clients in Tramore, she had gone around and told her hair clients in Tramore that my sister was actually a social worker and I had to be accompanied when I was with the kids. So like they didn't know that my sister was my sister. So it was all about parading me around Tramore with this person supposed to be watching over me and the kids when it was actually my sister. After this, then my fiance and myself, we would go up and down to Dublin to visit the kids in various restaurants or take them shopping into kind of shops and stuff. And on the last occasion then, because I had to stop at it, we were due to meet the kids in a restaurant, and I was walking from Ballymun. I was walking from Houston Station at the Ballymun, which is an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4, and that's sex of toys and presents and stuff like. And then when we get out there, then she would change the location of the place 5 minutes beforehand. This was like it was pissing rain, the tables were soaked. And then we got to the next place and she changed it again 5 minutes beforehand, and then the next place again. She done this a total of 4 times. And then when we got in there, then she was sitting around with all these kind of like people sitting around watching us, deliberately, purposely throwing us looks. Like the kids were oblivious to it, but like we could see we could see what was being done. During one of the court sittings, then it was around Easter, and I asked my ex, would she take, like I had a sack of Easter eggs with me, and would she take the Easter eggs for the kids from my family and all that? And she basically said no, told me where to stick the eggs. And so an argument ensued, right? And there was a guard in between him, and he just kind of broke it up. There was nothing it was just kind of like a shout match, to be honest with you. But she went and got a safety order over this. Her own solicitor got up and lied and said she was present. She wasn't present. The guard was present. Like, he even said, like, the guard, that he couldn't hear what was being said, and there was just the three of us kind of more or less there. But she got the safety order, and kind of my solicitor told me that this was normal procedure, that I shouldn't object to it, and I didn't really mind because I knew I'm going to break it. So like I didn't really mind, to be honest with you. So I didn't object to it. But then I was in a men's group in Waterford that were dealing with kind of like messy breakups and stuff, and they were saying to me that like this effectively puts you 1 foot in jail. That because a woman's allowed to allege anything she wants, and a man has to provide proof of everything. A woman can allege everything in the court, and this is the way the system is set up. So I was told to go down and like I needed to appeal it. So I was ringing my solicitor for like 14 days on and off, sending emails saying I wanted to appeal, and she just wouldn't answer me. So on the 14th day, I said I was going to go into the courts, and I said I was going to make a complaint about her on the same day, and I was going to lodge my own appeal. And she appeared in the courthouse after 14 days saying how lucky I was to make it on the last day. I went in early one morning. The courthouse had been moved out to the Tramore Road, and I was living out in Tramore, and I was getting the bus in and out. But I went in early one morning, I think I got the bus in really early to be there, and there's no one in the courthouse, obviously. But I was standing in the hall, and in the hall then you can look through one window into another window, into another hall, if that makes sense. And as I was there, I seen my ex coming out of the consultation room with her solicitor and with my solicitor, and the three of them were sharing a joke. So I found this very concerning. She purposely then changed the person that was to do the report. The original person to do the report, as I said, was Dr. Teresa Green. And my solicitor told me that she would look down her nose at me and all this stuff, and she wasn't right for the report. And I was explaining like why this person was put on the case, because I explained already to the previous solicitor about the risk of prejudice and like all this kind of stuff. And she basically told me that like she would look down her nose at me, and she had another person lined up who was independent as well. I've since found out that Teresa Graham wouldn't look down her nose at me. She's very unbiased actually, and this is why she was really kind of like taken out with the case. But the person that came to do the report, I can't say her name, but we'll just call her MB for now. I was told that she wasn't any part of Waterford Tussle. She wasn't from the Waterford area. She didn't know her. She said she thought she was up from around me because I was asking questions. Obviously, I had concerns. And she said obviously that she never had her on her case before, that she didn't know her, and so I reluctantly agreed. I found out about 15 months afterwards that this was all lies, that she was after prejudicing my case, having this person on my case. She was actually an acquaintance of Anne Carey, who I spoke about in the first video. She was involved with Waterford Tussle. She was from the Waterford area, and she was actually been involved with previous cases with my solicitor. So when I found out this, obviously I was taken aback, but I didn't approach my solicitor with it because I didn't want to go and change the solicitor again, because it would have looked like in court that I was being difficult, and do you know what I mean? But it was definitely a serious issue, so I kind of had to kind of tiptoe around stuff from there on. After this MB, we'll call her, this is the woman that came to do the report because I can't give her name. After this MB came to do the report, like there was probably 90% lies in the report. Like I can't emphasize how bad the lies were in this report. It was just totally over the top. My sister was in court to contradict my ex, because my sister was actually around myself and my ex and the kids quite a lot, right up until my father passed in January 2015. So my sister would have known firsthand like where we were living and what we were doing and all this. So she was in court to give evidence, and my solicitor came out to the steps of the court. We were standing outside, and she started telling my sister all this horrible stuff that was wrote in the report about a real kind of character assassination stuff, kind of like it was all total lies now. And she continued to tell her, and like my sister took it to heart, being honest with you. My solicitor got a short adjournment. That night my sister rang me up to say that she couldn't cope with my ex's lies and she couldn't cope with the case anymore, and she backed out of it. So my solicitor basically drove my only witness away. And personally I think it was purposely done, because there's no way like a professional would not see this kind of coming, but that's what happened. I remember only months earlier as well that my ex had like, she wouldn't let me see the kids unless the same sister was present, because she was out telling people she was a social. This was the same sister, so like there was no contact between them in between. So like all of a sudden now she was attacking her in the report, and the reason she was attacking her online in the report because she wanted her, because she was going to basically contradict her lies in courtroom. That's basically. The judge asked me then, because I'd know to see the kids, and she had set up this place, the Men's Network in Dublin, if I wanted to see the kids up there, and she had pushed this upon the courts. So the judge asked, look, he said, to get the ball rolling, would you be willing to just kind of do the supervised visits, just get the ball rolling? I explained I'd done it once already with my sister, but I agreed just to get the ball rolling. I agreed to do the supervised visits up in this place. So I did, and he adjourned it, I think, for 6 weeks or 2 months, and I had to go up every 2 weeks, I think, and do these visits. So I done it, and then we got back to court. Then my ex turned around and said that during the visits that I called one of the kids a weirdo on the phone. And I tell you what happened. She was recording the phone calls, and as I was speaking on the phone, my voice would kind of echo and echo and echo. And like when the child would go to speak to me, her voice would echo and echo. So we couldn't have a conversation because her voice would be echoing so much. But we were laughing. We were talking about how weird it was, and that was it. That was the only comment about anything being weird. And she went into court and she said I called the child a weirdo, and she had the recording, but she lost the recording, and she didn't want anyone speaking to the kids because it was too traumatic, and this was taken as evidence. So basically I was made to start the whole supervised visit again for Dublin. So I couldn't believe it. I turned around like kind of like as if to say to my solicitor, kind of like do something, and I caught my solicitor was winking over at my ex and her solicitor, and I just couldn't believe it. This woman, MB, had begun the report. She came, I explained the situation as best I could. I explained everything. I gave her 3 contacts that showed my ex to be lying, that if she contacted any 3 of these people, it would have showed that we were living together. So this woman, MB, had come to do the report. She came and I explained the situation as best I could. I explained everything. I gave her 3 contacts that she should contact, and it would have just showed me ex to be lying about like various kind of stuff, being honest with you. I also gave her a parenting agreement where actually I had the kids 6 days a week, and this was signed by both of us, and trying to get my solicitor to hand this in, it was like pulling teeth, if I'm being honest with you. But she said that she would have it like in the report and she'd have it passed to the judge. I was not happy with this farce. My ex was she was basically allowed to lie. Like every time she come into court, there was like probably over a dozen sentences in the district court. She would just constantly come in and just change her story and change her lie and say I done this and say I done that. And my solicitor would be there playing with paper up with her head down, and like there's no one objecting. There was no one writing down what she had said in the previous sentence to cross-examine her. Like, and even the judge had begun to kind of, because we were down to so much, the judge I think started to remember the previous sentence. I don't know, he started to see it for what it was. So we'd gone back to court then. I had done the supervised visits now for the 3 times. I had gotten the report this time that the judge requested from the Men's Network, and they said I was a good father, the kids were fine with me, I showed no mental illness. So report was great. MB had come back for a second visit, and I asked her did she contact any of the 3 people that I asked her to contact. She said she'd forgotten, but she would contact them before the report was due in. This was the Section 22 report. Then she was asking me what I knew about Anne, and this kind of like got me kind of thinking, because like she was after saying that she didn't know this woman, like, so I was inquiring, like, if you didn't know her, why would you be calling her Anne? Because like you wouldn't be calling her Anne, you'd be calling her Miss Carrie. Like, you'd only be calling her Anne if you knew the person. And she just kind of went all right, and kind of she looked guilty, if I'm being honest with you. But that's just my opinion. And then she's tiptoeing around what we were doing recreationally. So basically I said if you're employing, I said, the drugs and the porn, I said what we were doing. I said, because that's basically what she was getting at, if I'm being honest with you, but she didn't want to spit it out. Because there was photographs of myself and my ex doing kind of adult stuff that we do, kind of personal stuff. We weren't breaking the law, I suppose the drugs were breaking the law, but this is what she was getting at. And I said, if you're implying to that because there was photographs, I said, you can have the photographs, I don't have any issue like with taking the photographs, but I want you to see like the amount of drugs in the photographs that they showed both of us involved in everything. And that's why the photographs were there. Like, so she asked me would I be willing to give over the photographs. Like, obviously I would, because I had no need for the photographs, but I just wanted to prove that my ex was lying, basically. And on the way out, she said to me then, would I be willing to sign over my passwords to Tussle? So I thought nothing of it, and I signed over my passwords, and she left. And on the way out then I asked her, would she be in court when the report was going to be read, the Section 22? And she assured me of course she would, and she left. My sister rang me a week later saying MB had rang her on the time she specifically asked not to ring because she was in work. But she kept ringing and ringing and ringing. She was in work, so she had to answer the phone to get her to stop ringing. And my sister was saying she was in work, but she kept trying to, how would I say this? My sister said she was almost trying to employ or get my sister to say anything bad about me whatsoever. Didn't matter what it was. She was going through a list of stuff to just try and get my sister, try and kind of like give any kind of credibility to anything she was saying, basically. And my sister felt really concerned and rang me up afterwards to say that she didn't trust this woman. In autumn then 2015, my ex, out of nowhere, she offered me the kids for a weekend. I was missing them, so I said yes. This was in Apollonia Suites out in Tranmere. So I was having issues then with a neighbour up over me there, and there was lots of people coming and going from the apartment there with tattoos, and they put 2 and 2 together, and they kind of thought I was selling drugs, and basically they ran away with that. I wasn't selling drugs, I was tattooing, but like this stuck up neighbour I had an issue with. But a few days after the kids went back, then this neighbour of mine, I can't give her name either, because I can only kind of give names of people I have proof of. So we call her just AW. But AW then, she spread this list of pornography sites all around Tranmere in people's letterbox through social media. Now this was the sexual shaming. I knew what this was from the Bahoy kind of stuff, because this is the stuff they do. So this was spread everywhere, and the only condition was that they wanted to be given into the guards, or like, because obviously they would have investigated. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this is what was done anyway, and it took me 2 or 3 days to find out. So when I found out, then obviously I contacted the guards. So the guards went down and spoke to her. She denied knowing me. She denied knowing my ex. So the guards told me then I should just rise above it. Easy for them to say. Then in court, then about 2 or 3 weeks later, then she came into court, this AW, and sat next to me ex in court, smiling and kind of smirking over the 2 of them, trying to provoke me. And my solicitor was like, who's that with your ex? And I kept saying I didn't know. My solicitor was like, are you sure? Check again, check again. I was like, no. And I knew what it was. They're trying to get me to approach him so I'd break the safety order. But she was after only weeks earlier, she said she didn't know me ex. And now all of a sudden she's coming into court, sitting next to her, smirking at me. In this time then as well, there was a letter sent down from my ex. She posted a letter. She was always texting or posting a letter trying to wind me up. But on the letter she said, due to my unspeakable actions towards the kids. Now this letter drove me mad. That statement alone drove me mad, and I wanted clarity on it. I went to the guards. Obviously they told me to go to a solicitor. Solicitor told me to, my solicitor just won't bring it up in court. I think it took me 3 or 4 more sentences before I had this brought up, because like this was a serious issue to me, because like I wanted to clarify what she meant. And she basically just fobbed it off as she was referring to the kids having to move house and the trauma, and like we all know really like what she was trying to do, and kind of like, But this is how nasty this person is. She will go to these kind of lengths and beyond and she will go to these kind of lengths and beyond to try and cause as much damage to people she have an issue with. The judge at this point then, if I'm being honest with you, he kind of had enough of the whole lot because he was starting, there were so many sittings, even though my solicitor really wasn't doing that, if I'm being honest with you, the judge was starting to remember kind of our previous sittings, because we were that much in court. As I said, I think there was over a dozen sittings or around a dozen. So we kind of remember, and he started to catch my ex out then because he noticed that she was chopping and changing her story, and she was constantly trying to label me as having kind of mental illness, and kind of I got sick of this. So I went off and I done a psychiatric evaluation for the courts. I done it off my own, a car off my own back. I think it cost me €1,500. But it came back all clear. So I gave that into the judge. The judge accepted that, and he basically told me ex then to kind of shut up, basically labeled me to have mental illness. But he reached a point where he kind of had enough of this kind, and he seen it for what it was. So he awarded me the kids to collect them Friday and drop them back on the Sunday. So I was to collect them Friday in Houston Station. So she was texting me there on the Friday. I went up obviously on the train to get him, and then when I got up to the train station, then she said the kids were under the weather. So there wasn't really much I could do, so I had to just come back. So then on the second occasion, then when I went up, then the next weekend I was due to go up, she got the youngest child to ring me when the older child went around. And she basically said, my mammy said you should come up and stay in a hotel. And then she was in the background saying, no, don't say that I told you. All this kind of whispering stuff, it was horrible. And they basically hung up and turned off their phone. And on the third time then, going up, then the same thing. She was constantly texting, in contact, and when I got up to Houston Station, then she just turned off the phone again. So that was 3 times. So it took 3 times before you can bring it back to court for this to happen. And the judge had also made, when he made that order for me to collect the kids Friday to Sunday, he also made an order for her to give back a photo album that she had belonged to me, of photographs of my father, which she wouldn't hand over, just to cause as much kind of turmoil as she could. So he ordered that she hand that back over as well. We went back to court then. I felt the judge should reprimand her, or at least penalise her for breaking these orders, as I felt kind of, if it was the other way around, it was a man breaking the orders, I'd probably be jailing him, to be honest with you. And I felt it was just so one-sided. It was my solicitor, as usual, was kind of realistically doing nothing. I explained to the judge that this was her normal behaviour, kind of from me ex, that she didn't even give the photo album back that she was ordered to give. That's how much respect she has for the courts, because she had someone that knows the courts whispering in her ear, telling her basically that as a mother, how far she can push the courts, and realistically they won't infringe upon her rights as a mother and penalise her no matter what she does. An example there, my mother passed away unfortunately in 2021, and a week after my mother passed away, she sent me down a photograph of her mother and my mother together. Now my mother didn't like her mother didn't like my mother. It was a mutual kind of dislike of each other. And her mother had beaten cancer a couple of years beforehand, and obviously my mother didn't. So this is what her real agenda was to send me down this photograph a week after, and have it kind of dig at me. That's how nasty it is. And then in July the 28th, which is my birthday, she got the youngest child to send me down a letter, and on top of the letter, there's this symbol. She had the child draw the symbol, and this symbol is the same symbol that it's the Baha'i symbol, like the Christians that have the cross, like the Baha'i have their own symbol. And I'll show you the symbol, because the HSE started promoting this religion. As I predicted, 18 months after I said all this, I was deemed to be a fantasist. But I'll upload this paperwork and I'll just show you that the HSE were indeed actually promoting this, and my ex did have the child write this symbol on the letter on the 28th of 7th, 2021, to show us that she was active in this religion, and for whatever reason she had the child write this symbol on the letters in order trying to provoke me. And the reason why that would provoke me is because of what I said in the first video and the whole Baha'i involvement in this. Another example of kind of just how spiteful and nasty my ex is kind of. I got married in 2019 in October, and obviously the kids were going to be kind of bridesmaids and stuff so I was getting married on a Thursday, She dropped the kids down on the Friday beforehand to be collected Sunday. So I got them their dresses Saturday and I dropped them back then, I think Sunday. And then Monday she texted 3 days before the wedding. I said the kids are not going to the wedding, that she was not allowing the kids to go to the wedding unless she was allowed to go to the wedding. So like obviously I said no. And then I'm sure she told the kids then that I wouldn't let them go to the wedding, or that's how nasty this person is. Like how do you deal with someone that's spiteful and that's like there's no limits with it whatsoever? Like, and I know it'll be kind of deemed as like a man kind of picking on a woman, and it's not that. Like there's the minority of women like that are like this. The majority of women like understand like they need protection from courts, like, and that's fair enough. But there's always that small minority that makes life like intolerable for the men. Like, and she's the classic case. She's the classic case of this. After court, yet again, I was very unhappy. I wanted to know why she could break these orders and not be penalised. I was told that, like, I was told as the judge thought about it, that I could go back to the men's network while he thought about what to do. That he'd never had this kind of situation before, where basically the mother broke all the orders. She didn't really care. She was after been told like that she could push the courts and they won't really do anything to her, if I'm being honest with you. So like he didn't know what to do. So he adjourned it for a short time while he thought about it, and I was told I could go back to the men's network if I wanted. So when I contacted the men's network and I explained the situation to them, they couldn't believe it because they had to give me a glowing report, and kind of like I had all these other reports. I was had to give them clean urines and psychiatric evaluations. I was had to jumping through hoops for the courts, if I'm being honest with you. They couldn't believe it. So I asked them would they kind of let me use the place so I can see the kids again, and they said they would, like, but they needed the place for people like that were doing supervised visits. But they done me this favour because they got on well with the kids and myself. There was a worker in there, and she was asking me about this kind of religion thing because I was explaining the whole like social dynamics of this stuff and how toxic it is. And she's asked me what she looked like, and I was saying she was 5 foot tall, like pushing 50, kind of short hair. And she explained that this woman had come into the place with me ex just before the report was due, obviously trying to doctor the report. But she tried to pretend that she was after working with the woman 20 years ago in some place that she worked in 20 years ago, obviously. And the woman said that she was in contact with all the people she worked with from 20 years ago, and she knew 100% that she never worked with her. And when your one got caught lying, she just left, basically. So the next time I called, then I had this brought up because I wanted to show that like this woman was interfering in my case and the risk of prejudice in my case. And so I wanted to show that the risk of prejudice in my case, that this woman was constantly interfering in my case. And my ex obviously heard me talking about all this in court, and obviously went back and told you that we were talking about it in court. So after she broke the orders then, and while the judge was thinking about it, I had to go back to the men's network to see the kids up there. I seen the kids once up there, and then they rang me on the train back down to say that my ex had come into the place after we had left, and she was like screaming and shouting and verbally abusing him, and they said they'd never seen that like it before, and she was screaming that they had broken a supervised access order. And I was like, look, there's no supervised access order, and just contact the courts or contact my solicitor and like they'll verify, like, because like I'd previously been awarded a case Friday to Sunday with no supervised access. So she was just as usual telling lies. And what it really was is I was after bringing up this person coming in trying to doctor a report, and they had given me a glowing report also. So she wanted this place taken out of the whole situation. So she went and got herself barred, and they apologised and they gave me a letter explaining all the situation, and I'll upload all this letter like further down the road. But like it shows that they just said that they can't deal with her, that they've never met anyone. They just said they can't deal with her and that she was absolutely totally barred and she wasn't allowed to darken the door ever again. I got a letter then one day saying that my case had been refused to be transferred up to Dublin. That apparently I think I had requested this, they said, or something. But obviously I didn't request it. I went down to my solicitor. I had kind of like moral now, I'm being honest with you. I was like, don't ever have a hearing behind my back again like that, trying to transfer my case up to Dublin. And her ex didn't get what she wanted, so why are you so worked up? I couldn't believe this, like. But they had two other times they tried to have my case transferred up to Dublin, and on one of the times the judge actually heard it. And I explained to the judge, look, I was at the lodging the papers in Waterford. Like I had done clean urine tests, I had done like voluntary psychiatric evaluation, I had done supervised visits 3 times. I had done everything the court had asked me to. So there was no reason for this to be transferred up to Dublin for me to basically start again. So he agreed with me and he kept it in Waterford and he refused the case to be transferred to Dublin. So like, so I basically was trying to like fob it off up to Dublin because I was starting to put two and two together with my solicitor. I was starting to see some very worrying stuff. Like on one occasion, I didn't really trust my solicitor, if I'm being honest with you, because like there's just so much weird stuff going on. I told her that my ex was going around telling people that I was going to kill myself, and this was all completely lies. I only told her this on the steps of the court. Like it was literally there and then. I told her. No one else ever said this. The only person who knew about this was me and my solicitor. And within 10 minutes, I was called in for our hearing in court, and my ex, her solicitor, got up and said, "Mr. Healy's going around telling people that he's going to kill himself." Now, no one ever said this, and no one didn't. The only person ever knew this was me and my own solicitor. So she clearly passed this information I had just told her back to the other side. Aside the court, I told my solicitor I'd caught her winking at my ex and her solicitor one day in court. I told her how I seen her coming out of the consultation room with my ex and her solicitor. I actually told her that I knew who MB was, that she wasn't from up the country like she told me she was, and I told her like that I knew she was involved with Waterford Tussle. She was actually an acquaintance of Anne Carey. She was actually involved with cases previously involving my solicitor, so she knew very well who she was, and she misled me and filled me up with a load of shit, being honest with you. And I had this person on my case then, and she absolutely destroyed my case. The amount of lies this woman wrote in her report. But not only that, the men's group I was a part of, when I mentioned this woman's name, everyone's face dropped. This woman has a history and a name apparently for writing biased reports against men in Waterford. The judge eventually came back then and he said, as my ex wouldn't play ball, these are his words exactly, that what he would do is he transferred to Waterford Circuit Court. Now I wasn't happy with this because I didn't want the case being transferred at all. I wanted her penalised and held accountable, being honest with you. But he said they might get some good out of her. But he said, look, I leave notes on the case saying that I wanted to be transferred up to Dublin and that he would transfer it into Waterford Circuit Court. So there wasn't really much more else I could do. So this was after around 12 months. So I was transferred into Waterford Circuit Court. I had told my solicitor at this stage that like I was actually absolutely sick of her. Actually, my ex should have been held accountable for breaking the orders. And like if it was the other way around, I would have been held accountable. I can tell you that. But she wasn't, and my solicitor done nothing. There was so much stuff my solicitor kind of withheld from the courts, and like she never cross-examined me ex, and there was loads of stuff. So I said outside, I said, as soon as I left the courthouse, I was going out to Tramore and I was going to make a complaint to Kerry head office about it. And when I got out to Tramore, obviously it took me a couple of hours to get from the courthouse out to Tramore to write the complaint. And when I wrote the complaint, then they said that she was after leaving the court at the same time as she was after lodging the complaint before I lodged my complaint to cover her arse basically. And then my complaint wouldn't be upheld because she had made a complaint about me. This was ridiculous. I met the manager then at Waterford Legal Aid and I explained the situation, that I had to face Waterford Circuit Court with no legal representation. And he said that he would come down and represent me there once just to make sure I had legal representation because the hearing was like 10 days time or something. So in court then, in its Waterford Circuit Court then in 2016 then, obviously he never turned up, goes without saying. But my ex's solicitor was there. My ex never even turned up for this. But they were pushing in court that the reason we were in court was because I was objecting to the case being transferred to Dublin. Now, this was not the reason we were in court, is because my ex kept breaking the orders, and they kept pushing this, that, and making me, I had no legal representation, and the judge was kind of, being honest, she was kind of losing it with me, asking me, where's your legal representation, as if I kind of purposely done this. And I was saying they didn't turn up. If you can give me a short adjournment for a half an hour, I'll go and find out. and she refused me any legal representation, and she gave me 5 minutes to explain the whole 17 months of what had gone on, which was impossible. So after about 3 minutes, then she just cut across me and said she was transferring the case up to Dublin. She made some remark about how much petrol my ex was, or how much money my ex was spending on petrol. In the district court in Waterford, I was given money. I was paying my ex for all her petrol up and down. So it goes to show you that my case wasn't even like looked into, because all this would have been in my file, like if she looked through my case. So it would have been the notes that the judge had left. So I don't even think my file was even looked into in the circuit court, being honest with you. And like that, after 16 months, 17 months, my case was transferred up to Dublin. And I walked out. I didn't even get my guardianship. I went into court like I had a parenting agreement where I had the kids 6 days a week. She was at the start of this, she was like pretending to be crying, saying that she hated seeing me with this mental illness, that the kids were missing me, that I was always around. That's how toxic this woman's lies were. Like, but I didn't even get me guardianship, and like the solicitor alone should have pushed, like based on the parenting agreement, that I was around so much that I should be entitled to the guardianship, but she wouldn't bring it up. So I walked out of that court after 17 months with absolutely nothing, and I was made start all over again up in Dublin. And on one occasion then I applied for a safety order, because like I had enough. My ex was constantly, she was texting me and ringing me, and this was getting out of hand. She sent a safety order. I don't even know how she got this. She went into Dublin courts one day, because I was not ringing her, I was not texting her, I had no contact with her whatsoever, but she went in and got a safety order out of nowhere, and she sent it down to me in-laws house, posted it down there to try and cause as much trouble as she wanted. So I had enough. Between that and I told you about her letter where she said, due to my unspeakable actions towards the kids, so I didn't want any contact with this woman whatsoever, and I still don't. But I went into court and I was asking the judge for a safety order, because I wanted her kept away from me basically, and he couldn't grant it to me. And you know what I mean, it was one law for her, not a law for me. She was able to go in and just lie up in Dublin. I wasn't even told there was a safety order, and she managed to get it. I goes in there with evidence, and I'm refused it. Several years later, I requested my file from my solicitor. It was edited beyond describing. I was in the middle of moving. I had just been married. It was 2019, 2020. I decided to pursue this and make it public, and I wanted to pursue my complaint. I requested a second copy before I jumped the gun and accused her of editing my file. She tried to say it had been completely destroyed. She tried to say it had been completely deleted. She tried to say it had been completely destroyed, edited. She tried to say it had been completely deleted, or destroyed was actually the word that she used in an email. And so I contacted someone in the legal profession, and they contacted the kind of someone, I think it was in the LSRA, and they found out that she had a legal obligation to retain all aspects of my file for 5 years. So when I kind of contacted her again with this information, she suddenly found my file again. She said it was open on a computer all this time, and this is why she couldn't locate the file. So she gave me a second copy of the file. So this was also like 80% removed from the file, right? So then I was asking her, then I was like, why is all the conversations regarding AW? This is the woman who done the first sexual shaming, remember, that came in and sat next to me ex. There was conversations I had with my solicitor about why she was bringing my attention to her. These were all removed from the file. I was asking her why the conversations regarding MB were all removed from the file, because obviously I wasn't happy, because I was after saying to her who MB was and that I knew what she was after doing. These were all after being removed as well, also from my file. The thing was absolutely edited to beyond kind of description, being honest with you. I kept emailing why my file had been edited so much. She said that the 5 years was up, and that for whatever reason she had edited, altered it, or destroyed it, whatever way like you want to look at it. She said it was destroyed. I've since produced emails showing that the 5 years were not up, and that she had altered or edited my file before the 5 years, the legal obligation of the 5 years. She had, for whatever reason, removed parts of my file and kind of like deleted them or destroyed them, basically. I said I'd just log into my own email and I'd print off the conversations on my side through my Outlook. So when I logged into my Outlook, then someone was after hacking into my emails And I noticed then that the same emails that she had taken out of her file were the exact same emails that were after being deleted from my account. Like, how do you explain this? You can say that maybe I deleted him to make him look like she was out there doing something, but I wouldn't have access to her emails. So like this left some very disturbing questions, and this really when all kind of hell broke loose, to be honest with you, around the town. I was able to get back some of these emails, and and one of these emails it shows that she had withheld information from me. She was after saying in the email that she she thought it was going to upset me. The information was that my ex was after getting barred out of the men's network, so I'd nowhere to see the kids. But she had kept this information from me because she didn't know what the men's network were after ringing me, if that makes sense, to tell me what was after happening. And so I was questioning why she withheld. So I was questioning why she withheld this information from me, and she acknowledged in the email herself that like she thought it was going to upset me. Like any good solicitor wouldn't keep information from their client. They would rather have them prepared and have them ready when at the court. They wouldn't have information just dropped on them in the courtroom. And this is what was happening. Like for over a year, there was stuff coming in and just being dropped on me, trying to provoke me, and this was just the bad practice here was unbelievable. And then in the middle of all this kind of like going back and forth through all the courts, then another issue I had with the solicitor, like she went into court and my ex was already claiming I had mental health issues, which I didn't have. But this is before I'd done the psychiatric evaluation, and she basically got up and said that Mr. Healy is under the illusion that his ex is in a cult run by the HSC. Now you could imagine like what that kind of how I looked in a courtroom with that kind of information being thrown out like that. I was trying to show that like the risk of prejudice with this woman, that she was had to been involved with it in a previous case where I was a witness, and so she shouldn't have been anywhere near me, and that was what the issue was. So for her to get up and just throw this crazy statement out into a courtroom, like it made me look like I had mental health issues, and I don't know, kind of I felt that it jeopardised my case, being honest with you. I contacted LSRA about her like deleting aspects of my file before the 5 year was up. They were investigating. In June 2022, then I went and I spoke to a solicitor outside of Waterford, because obviously the whole influence and cronyism in Waterford. And they said they were at the preliminary hearing of looking into my case. And then by July, I don't know what happened, but the whole attitude of LSRA suddenly changed. Personally, I think someone contacted them, and they were influenced by someone with a bit of pull from Waterford, personally, is what I think. And they basically said that my solicitor had given me 2 copies of the file. Like the issue wasn't that she wouldn't give me the file, the issue was that she was at the editing the file. This is what the issue was. And Tusla hadn't denied, and they hadn't admitted either what I had said about Miss Anne Carey being involved in a previous situation where I was a witness in. So kind of like, and this was to keep me in this kind of grey area, like. But the reason my old solicitor before this solicitor, this was the reason why he set up Theresa Graham as an independent person to do the Section 22 report. They said that Tusla had not denied it, and they hadn't admitted this woman's and Carrie's involvement previously in the case. And like, I wouldn't have had water for Tusla around anywhere near my case whatsoever. Like, if you go by what I said in the first video, you'll understand why. So to have this woman in my case, and like basically LSRA covered up for the solicitor, if I'm being honest with you. And I personally think that it was influenced by someone from Waterford. Like, if you have rules and regulations that you must retain all aspects of the file for 5 years, and then you find out someone's at the doctoring the file like just before it's to be investigated under the 5 years, like I think that alone speaks volumes, being honest with you. And they shouldn't be allowed. I know the LSRA are slightly at the bend in the rules. Well, she kept certain aspects of the file. She's supposed to keep all aspects of the file, and that was to protect her, and it was to protect me, because I can allege anything and she can allege anything. So by keeping all the yolks, it gives an honest account. But like, I wasn't able to give an honest account because she was already after doctoring my file for whatever reason. You can make up your own minds why why she felt the need to edit my file. And not only that, then like who hacked my emails. But not only that, who hacked into my emails and deleted all the emails that she had deleted from my files. Like that can't be explained. My case was prejudiced. I believe it was purposely prejudiced. There was no due diligence done. The transfer behind my back, the altering of my file, the lying about the 5 years being up, the lies about who MB was. All of this was excused in my opinion by LSRA at the request of a high profile person from Waterford pulling strings. The misconduct around my case, like, and people involved in my case, like these people should be sacked, but of course they have jobs and they pull and they have pensions, so like realistically they're not going to be one person on my own trying to stand up against this, being honest with you. These people have all contacts and we all know who's pulling strings for who. But the system should be above this kind of behaviour. The system should pride itself on being above this kind of behaviour. It shouldn't. We're going to manipulate, we're going to corrupt the whole system now. Like realistically, they're looking to corrupt the whole system to protect the actions of these clowns. And that's what's going to happen. The fact that I have to be harassed, I have to be assaulted, I have to be intimidated, my character has to be destroyed. Various paperwork from various people like has been edited or has gone missing, and my family has to be targeted, my in-laws have to be targeted. Like that's all the more reason for this to be investigated. It shouldn't be covered up. I have some serious issues with the handling of my case, as there's some serious issues regarding the handling of my case, and I have a right to pursue this. I understand there's women that needs the protection of the courts, and I do understand that, and I'm not having to go with women here, but there's that small minority, like my ex, like, and I can't really explain how nasty and jealous this kind of person is, and like I know her whole day is consumed with kind of destroying my life because I lived with her, and I've seen her whole day being consumed with trying to destroy another person's life, so I know the whole kind of workings of the way she thinks. And then on top of that, then you have the corruption and tussle and kind of like, and that's basically what's going on. Like at the end of the day, what I said in that first video, it's either true or it's untrue. And if what I'm saying is true, it should be investigated. If what they're saying about me is true, it should be investigated. So why is it not being investigated? So that brings the course sitting up to like 2017. I will address Waterford City Council's involvement, and I'll also speak of Sinn Féin. I'd also like to reiterate, I don't have any issue with Sinn Féin as a group. I had two issues. One was with the TD of Sinn Féin, and one was with a small minority who canvassed for this TD, basically, who had met my ex. It will become evident of my issue and how it's not with the political party, that is with an individual. I've written to many other politicians and many other kind of like political parties, and some of them just ignore me, and like that goes for all various parties. Like some ignore me, some answer me. Like I've written to Mary Lou MacDonald herself, and she told me to go to the guards. So like I don't really have an issue with kind of like any political parties. Like these members are members of Sinn Féin, and they use the Sinn Féin network to hide their actions and kind of harass and bully someone. And I think like I have the right to stand up for myself and call this out for what it is. As I said in the prior video, I will get this down into because I want to put it down in a timeline of events, because I don't want to be jumping back and forth because it gets very confusing. So I'll put it all down in a timeline from 2013 right up to 2022, and then I will do another video separately, and I will explain all the paperwork. I will show the paperwork that supports everything that I'm saying that they're trying to keep covered up. And they don't want me getting to this stage. And if you notice over the last 2.5 weeks how bad the harassment, how the campaign is like to offer no kind of support to them. And this is really wise, because I'm ultimately going to talk about things they don't want me talking about. And as bad as this is, like, and I know this sounds bad, between the first video and this video, this must sound like crazy stuff, but it only gets worse. But a lot of people will know how bad this gets because they're actually involved in it. And if they're not involved, they're after hearing kind of being pressured into kind of like. And it shows how desperate these people are not to have this investigated. Why would you not have something investigated? Like, if I'm guilty of all these things, have it investigated. Do you know what I mean? It makes more sense, but you not go down this route. These people have pensions, they have jobs, they have reputations, and basically I'm one person on my own. And at the end of the day, like, they think they can bully who they want, and because they're in large groups of people or they're connected to this group of people, that they're entitled to some kind of protection or kind of entitlement to bully who they want and kind of suppress what they want. Well, that might work for like most of the people, and I understand that, but like, I'm refusing to be bullied by these people. And it's not for some bravado thing, and it's not revenge. It's just I prefer to stand my ground and kind of take it from there. So if you go by what was said in the first video and what's been said in this video, it shows the misconduct that's been going on, and it shows how crazy kind of this is getting really out of control and how out of hand it is. Like, it's been 9 years now. I think it's Thursday, the 3rd or 4th of August there now, and just like it's 9 years in August, yeah, this month. This is going on there now. And you notice my first video was 2.5 weeks ago. Look at the social dynamics of how it's been pushed, that like no one is to give any kind of support or anything to me, and basically just socially shun me to try and keep this all muffled. And mistakenly I tried to complain in Waterford about people of Waterford, and I now know that that was a mistake, that you have to take it aside of Waterford. So eventually I will try and get it into the High Court and a lot of the papers, because there's a gross lack of there's a gross failure in duty of care by the girls, by Waterford Council, and more if I was to go into it. So I'll just leave it there for now, and I'll upload my third video in a week or two. Hopefully I won't need subtitles. Thanks.